Morning, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I'm back down here at the Pathfinder Outdoor Classroom today, where we teach lots and lots of classes here in Southeast Ohio, almost on a bi-weekly basis from about March to December. We teach lots of classes from basic, intermediate, and advanced survival to Bushcraft 101, ropes and rigging, wilderness first aid certifications through the Red Cross, medicinal edible plants, and lots of other classes that you can find on our website under the training tab at selfrelianceoutfitters.com. The reason for this video today is we have an upcoming intermediate survival course, and it's kind of the midway point in our survival series. We have basic, intermediate, and advanced. Then we have an intro class that's more of a low-key, slow-paced class, more for young folks, people who are brand new to the outdoors, things like that want to learn the basics of kit and carry and survival mentality before taking the basic class. That's a good class to take as well. But the three main courses are basic, intermediate, and advanced survival in our survival series. We have an upcoming intermediate class next month that's sold out. We have another one scheduled later in the year, I think at the end of the summer, but the one in May is sold out. However, what I wanted to do today was I wanted to make a video discussing that intermediate course and the gear requirements for that course and why, and then talk to you a little bit about what's entailed in that course so that you understand when you go from a basic to an intermediate what that means. And so in this class, we encourage people to at least have taken an intro or a basic class, preferably a basic class, before embarking on the intermediate class, because skills build as we go through these series of classes within the school. And skills are built one on the other so that we do a crawl, walk, run mentality while we teach in EDI fashion, which is educate, demonstrate, imitate, with a very close relationship and large instructor-student ratio so that we have an instructor for very few students at a time so that they can get one-on-one attention and learn the skills properly, okay? I think that's very important. That instructor-student ratio is something that I'm very critical about here at the Pathfinder School. Generally speaking, at a basic level, it's 8-to-1. At an intermediate level, it's 6-to-1. At an advanced level, it's 4-to-1 as far as students to instructor ratio, okay? And I think that's very important. Now, to the intermediate course, let's talk first about the curriculum of that class before we talk about the kit that you should bring to that class or the gear requirements on our website, all right? So, first of all, in the intermediate course, we're gonna talk about roving mentality versus base camp mentality. So more of a on-the-move mentality to affect self-rescue, okay? We're gonna talk about some base camp mentality as well in case you are injured or something like that and you have to be stuck in a place for 3 to 4 days before rescue. We'll talk about how to improve base camps as well. And then principles of sheltercraft, which play right into that, and they'll be enhanced sheltercraft. It won't just be a simple tarp setup like we teach in the basic class where we teach 5 basic shelter configurations using a tarp. This will be more enhanced tarp configurations and supported tarp configurations with framing as well. Percussion and friction fire and next fire mentality. Those are big things to me when it comes to longer term. You have emergency fire resource that you can use to affect immediate fire in a basic survival scenario. Beyond that, you need to learn to conserve your resources. Think about next fire mentality and making it as easy as possible without using an emergency resource necessarily or conserving that emergency resource in some way. And we also talk about the principles of percussion or flint and steel fire, as well as bow drill fires off the landscape, not with store-bought material, directly off the landscape, so that you learn that it's more difficult than you think it is, but it's absolutely doable, even directly off the landscape in an emergency if you have to do it, right? Obviously, that's the last thing anybody should bank on, but a knowledge of that and a knowledge of understanding material selection, manipulation, inputs, outputs, variability within the system to make a bow drill fire are very important. Water collection, disinfection, advanced techniques. More than just simple throw it in a water bottle and throw it in the fire and boil it. Okay, we're gonna talk more in depth about that. And ways that you can procure water if it's not obviously there in a running stream or in a pond, okay? Now, some of these things have an asterisk beside them. We'll talk about that as we go. The next one is Intro to Map Reading, Route Planning, Terrain Association, and Self-Mapping. And it says intro there, and it's got an asterisk beside it because we have a specialty course called Navigation Intensive, where we really do a deep dive into all of these things, as well as primitive navigation techniques. This is just an intro level to that stuff, but it concentrates heavily on map reading basics and using a compass with a map in this class, okay? Resource management tips and tricks to extend the resources that you have. Intro to primitive trapping, hunting, or fishing, and that is seasonal. Depends on when you come to the course, what we'll be concentrating on, all right? Again, there's an asterisk beside that because we have primitive trapping courses. We have things like On the Water's Edge and 21st Century Long Hunter that teach hunting and trapping and things like that specifically. And so this is just an intro to those things. An intro to medicinal trees and medicinal preps. We'll talk about medicinal trees off the landscape. I'm a big believer in tree resources because they're 4-season. They're easy to find all year round. You don't have to wait for a certain time of year to harvest them off the landscape. You can get the medicinal resource of a tree 4 seasons of the year. So we started right here at this level with that intro, and then that feeds into our medicinal edible plants class, which we talk more about trees, more about plants and things like that as well. You're also going to get an intro to food preservation and care of food. And basically that's going to boil down to whatever we catch or whatever we provide for you to preserve and cook and things like that. And you will learn those techniques again in intro format, simplified format, because other classes like the 21st Century Long Hunter, Survival on the Water's Edge, things like that, all go deep dive into those subjects, okay? And then crafting critical resources and upcycling. Crafting of critical resources or some of the 5 C's and 10 C's off the landscape, and then being able to upcycle things off the landscape like garbage that's very commonly found to be able to effectively build a larger kit or be able to do more things with the kit that you have or replace items that may get lost or damaged within your kit, okay? That's upcycling and creating and crafting of critical resources. All of those things are taught at the intermediate level. This is a 4-day class, and it's 4 days that are long days. It's not 4 8-hour days when we go to the hotel, 4 8-hour days and we're done. It's 4 12 to 14-hour days with 2, 3, 4, 5 miles worth of hiking every single day, and then camping on the landscape in the woods every single night with the instructors, okay? So those are the things that we cover in that class. Now let's talk about the gear list and some of the whys. Okay, so let's go over the equipment list for the intermediate class. And I have all of those items right here on this 6-foot table. And it looks like it's an exhaustive list on the board here, but it's really not as much as it looks like it is when you break it down. And it should all fit easily into a 30-liter dry bag, except possibly your accordion mat, which you may have to strap to the outside. Everything else should easily enough fit in there or into the haversack that you're carrying so you can carry that on your side along with your dry bag, all right? You're gonna notice on this list, first of all, I wanna caveat this by saying there's no Bic lighters on this list, like there is the basic class. There are no ferro rods on this list, like there are the basic class, because we're trying to enhance your fire starting abilities by teaching you how to make a bow drill fire off the landscape and subsequently use the products of that fire to create things like char that you can easily ignite with tools you have in your kit to give you that next fire mentality. So we're kind of taking a couple things away so the temptation's not there and teaching you that if you don't have them, how you can live without them, because fire is one of the most critical things as far as survival goes. So understanding other ways to create fire beyond basic emergency items is important. Now, the next thing I would tell you is that most of this kit bleeds over from the basic class in a lot of ways with a few enhancements for the intermediate course. However, we don't require people to buy equipment for the basic class anymore. We used to require a gear list for the basic class, and it worked out really well for years and years and years. But I wanted to kind of give back to people and make it easier for people to attend the intro and the survival basic course. So I started providing the kit at those courses. And so now, instead of already having that kit from the basic class and then adding a few pieces to it for the intermediate and then subsequently subtracting from it for the advanced, you're now relegated to having to buy this equipment. However, it's not that big of a list, and it's not really that expensive depending on the brands of things you buy, and I'm gonna help you out with that during this discussion as well. So let's get started. All right, so the next thing I would tell you before we start going through this gear is that there's lots and lots of places you can buy this gear. You don't have to buy it from Self-Reliance Outfitters. You don't have to buy it from Amazon. There's other places you can buy this gear, and some of it can be had even locally if you have a camping store or a surplus store or something like that near you. So with that said, we do have a recommended links on our website. It tells you places you can buy most of this gear, and most of it will direct you to Self-Reliance Outfitters because I've tried to be sure I can carry all the things that we require for classes, even if you can get them somewhere else, so that it is a convenient one-stop shop, and we try to keep our pricing in line or competitive with everyone else, okay? So, you need a belt knife and an SAK. Belt knife should be a full tang knife. A Mora Garberg is good enough for that, or any other full tang belt knife you want to bring. However, I would recommend, number one, that it's high carbon steel, and number two, that it has a good 90-degree spine, and it's at least 4 inches long. A Mora Garberg is a perfect case in point for that, okay? The next thing is an SAK. With an SAK, and I don't encourage multi-tools in the woods. I encourage SAKs because they have some hygiene and first aid items on them you don't find on a multi-tool, like the toothpick and the tweezers. But I would also recommend you get a model that has a folding saw on it so you have an extra saw blade, and it has a good, at least 3-inch knife blade on it so that you can do other things you need to do as well. The rest of the tools are pretty much inconsequential other than the hygiene stuff, okay? A Sil Nylon Tarp 8x8. That's the minimum size, all right? If you bring an 8x10, it's gonna be a little bit more of a pain in your butt with some setups, advantageous in others, give you a little bit more room, but an 8x8 square tarps give you the most options really for setups in my opinion. This is just a Sil Nylon tarp I've had for years and years. It's an 8x8. You can use the Pathfinder tarp. You can use any Sil Nylon tarp you find anywhere else. That is at least 8x8, and it will be fine and adequate. Make sure that it's got tie-out loops on it and not grommets if you can help it, okay? 6 ABS tent stakes. Yes, you can make tent stakes off the landscape. However, these become enhancements to your kit for other things as well. I always recommend carrying 6 ABS tent stakes, okay? A poncho, GI type. Doesn't matter what kind of poncho you buy or what brand it is. This one happens to be a Helicon. But you can buy any GI style poncho that has grommets in it and snaps, and it will work for the intended purpose for the intermediate class, okay? When we combine this with something else to just cowboy up in a bedroll on the ground, a poncho is great for that. It also gives you rain gear, all right? A Swagman Roll or a Whoopee. A Whoopee is a poncho liner, okay? I happen to have a Swagman Roll here. It's one that I've had for years. I carry this one a lot. I have a couple other ones as well, but that's the one that I generally carry most of the time. A Whoopee or a poncho liner will do, depending on your budget, okay? It's not going to be as warm, but if you're taking class in spring or summer, it's not going to matter that much anyway. It's close to being as versatile, although you can't zip it all the way around into sleeping bag configuration. It's not going to have a hood on it to put underneath the poncho and give you that extra layer. But again, spring, summer, not that important. And a Whoopee is 1/3 the price of something like a Swagman Roll. We have a Whoopee on our website that's very inexpensive that you can use, the same Whoopee that we provide in our basic level kits, and that will work fine for you, okay? You need a 6mm trash bag. You only need one. There's no reason to carry 5 or 6 6mm trash bags. You only need the one, all right? And this needs to be 6mm so that it will support body weight. We'll talk about that during the class, but 6mm will support body weight. Anything less than that may not support your body weight. So make sure that you get a 6mm trash bag. Obviously that trash bag is multifunctional in lots of ways. We talk about that more in the class as well, but they're about $5-6 a bag. You only need the one, all right? A 30-liter dry bag. The 30-liter dry bag that I have here is a Pelican. You can buy any 30-liter dry bag that you want. If it's got backpack straps on it, it's probably a bonus. although we're gonna teach you things like how to improvise pack frames off the landscape and things in this class anyway. So you may not have to worry about having backpack straps on it very shortly after the class starts. However, if it has backpack straps on it, it will make it easier for you to carry day 1 and carry out on day 4, okay? Again, just make sure it's 30 liters because all of this stuff, like I said, save maybe your accordion mat, will fit either in your haversack or in that 30-liter brag bag, all right? You need a shemagh. I would recommend an orange shemagh for reasons of waypoint marking and things for navigation and rescue. We'll talk about that in the class as well, but I'd recommend an orange shemagh, okay? You need an orange t-shirt. I would get the biggest one you can find. Make sure it's 100% cotton. Make sure it's plenty big so that it will fit over any outerwear that you may be wearing, because not only is it a signal device, it also works well for us to be able to see you in the woods if we're out looking for you, because we do have longer navigations in this class into a wilderness wildlife area that you can get lost in if you're not careful. So we're going to require you to wear this during navigational exercises so that we can more easily identify you if we're looking for you in the woods. And it also gives you a lot of items that you can use for first aid, for next fire mentality, and lots of things like that, as well as marking trails. A large t-shirt like this we talk about in the basic class as being a very, very important piece of your kit, okay? For lots of reasons. I won't go over all of that today because that would be an entire class, okay? 15, 20 minutes. You need a flint and steel set. Now, your flint and steel set does not have to be necessarily a flint and steel kit with a striker and all that stuff in it and a tin, because you're not going to use all that stuff. You're going to improvise a lot of those things. What I would tell you is make sure that your saw, and I think I might have passed that on the list, but your folding saw, which was the second thing on the list, make sure that that thing or your knife will strike sparks if you hit it with a hard stone like chert, flint, or granite, or quartzite, okay? If it'll throw sparks, that's your flint and steel kit. I generally find that the silky saw is more reliable than any knife I've used just about, as far as being able to not only strike a ferro rod, but also throw sparks into charred material. So if you have a good high carbon steel knife or a good high carbon steel saw, then you have a flint and steel kit, because we'll collect rocks off the landscape, all right? You're gonna need a Fresnel lens, okay? And that Fresnel lens can be any one you buy, anywhere you buy it, doesn't matter. If you show up and you don't have one, I've got some spares here that are not that expensive. I usually keep one behind my hat in this Wazoo cash hat, right behind the patch on the front. I keep a Fresnel lens in there, so I've always got one with me. You can also put it in your wallet, okay? Very simple. You need 2 water bottles and 1 cup, or 2 canteens and 1 cup. I generally carry canteens, are my favorite container. Doesn't mean a water bottle won't work. You need at least 1 cup and 2 bottles or canteens, especially in the summertime, okay? Especially in the summertime. You need a Milbank bag. This is basically a pre-filtering device to pre-filter turbidity out of your water if you're going to boil. We'll also show you other ways to use this bag during the course. It doesn't weigh very much, doesn't take that much room, and it gives you an extra pouch that you can actually hang off your belt to put tinder materials in as well. So it's kind of a bonus 2-for-1 deal there. 100 foot of number 36 bank line, just bring a 100-foot roll. That'll be enough. This is your expendable cordage for the course. 30 foot of tubular webbing, all right? You want 1-inch tubular webbing for this, all right? We're going to do a lot of things with this webbing, from improvising hammocks to improvising backpack straps to rescue. We're gonna do a lot of things with this webbing, okay? You're gonna take that 30 foot and cut it in half as soon as you get here into 2 15-foot sections. If you wanna do that before you get here, that's fine. But you wanna carry this in 2 15-foot sections. If you need the full 30 foot, you put a water knot in it. We'll teach you that at the class. But 15-foot sections makes it very conducive to using it for shelters, improvised hammocks, and things of that nature, all right? So you need that 30 foot of tubular webbing, and that's your 3rd type of cordage. When we teach our system of 3s and our system of 5s here at the Pathfinder School, the 3rd cordage option for you is paracord bank line tubular webbing, okay? You need your rapid deployment Ridgeline. If you're not familiar with that, then you haven't been to a basic class, okay? It's a 30-foot piece of paracord with a couple prusik loops on it. The minimum is all you need. Doesn't have to have a bunch of toggles hanging off of it and all that fancy stuff. 2 prusik loops made out of 36 bank line on a 30-foot ridge line is good enough. That's going to be a line you're never going to cut. You may have to extend it with an extension line, but you'll never cut it, and you're going to use it over and over again, all right? You need 2 6-foot utility lines. That's just 2 6-foot pieces of paracord so that you know the difference when you pick them up in the dark, 30-foot, 6-foot. It's very, very simple. If you need to extend these, we teach you how to do that. These 2 have toggles on them. You don't need those toggles. Just bring the 2 pieces of utility cord and you'll be good. So you need a 30-foot rapid deployment ridge line, 2 6-foot pieces of paracord as utility lines and extensions. We'll talk about that more in the course as well. You need an Accordion Sleep Pad. Again, the brand doesn't matter. Just find one, okay? This one happens to be a Thermarest. This thing is old, battered, and trashed, okay? I've had this thing for years. I use it all the time. It's my mainstay during courses like intermediates and advanced when I'm sleeping in the woods with the students. I'm usually up till 2 or 3 in the morning with them, helping them with projects, things like that, and deliverables. I just throw this thing in the dirt and I go to sleep, okay? That's my go-to for summer and spring and early fall, sleeping on the ground, is that pad. Anything beyond that for winter is not enough, okay? Don't let anybody tell you it is. But for this type of weather and for what we're doing, this will work. We can show you how to enhance that if you need to, depending on the weather and the season, okay? Now, you need 1 roll of duct tape. That could be 1-inch duct tape is fine. You can see this one just got on a piece of paracord here so it can be connected to something or hang off a backpack or a strap. A 1-inch roll is fine. It's all you need. It goes to be able to repair your kit. It's also part of your fire mentality, okay? You need a headlamp with either spare batteries or a brick. I keep mine in a Dyneema pouch. I've showed this on other videos. It's my Pathfinder rechargeable headlamp and a brick. I also have an extra notebook and a pen in here. So that's 1 notebook and pen. I generally carry at least 2. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're going to need an analog watch. Any watch will be fine. This is just a Timex Expedition. It's an analog watch. Several reasons for that, okay? Number 1, I don't want smart watches here at the school where people can look at them to navigate. Number 2, I want you to be on time. When we send you out in a team exercise and give you a drop dead time to be back at this camp, that's for the safety of the entire group. We want you back here so that we're not all sitting around the classroom and 2 or 3 instructors are out looking for you in the wildlife area because you didn't use your escape azimuth and come back on time. So the analog watch helps keep you on time, okay? We're also gonna show you some improvised techniques for navigation with that. Pace beads. I've got my pace beads attached to my knife right here on the handle. Any pace bead will work for you, whatever you've got. You can even use rocks if you have to in your pocket. But you need a set of pace beads for this course because we're gonna do a lot with maps. You need a protractor that is 1 to 10,000. That's very, very specific. You need a protractor that's 1 to 10,000. You don't have to buy the Pathfinder protractor. However, I will tell you that this Pathfinder protractor was designed specifically for 1 to 10,000 maps with a protractor and degree readings around it and a scale on the outside with a starting point dot. So it's very, very dummy proof. And that's the way I like things, okay? You can get this one on our website and it will definitely work for every map here at the school. And if you buy a map that's 1 to 10,000 from mytopo.com for your area, you can use it for your maps as well after the fact. Sail needle, again, goes to repair. And I just tape mine right to the back of my Moore Garberg sheath here with a piece of black duct tape. Very, very simple. Forget it's there until you need it, okay? Notebooks and pencils, we just talked about that. I have one in my headlamp kit. I also have another one in my compass bag. Compass with mirror, I must have missed that. All right, I've got my compass in here. I've got an old Silva compass in here. And again, something to write on and something to write with, okay? Pretty simple. Haversack. I've got a Dyneema haversack. You don't have to have a Dyneema haversack. The lighter things are when you put them in this kit, the easier it is to carry, the more comfortable it's going to be when you start carrying other resources as well. I find that the Dyneema haversack wads up very, very small. It's very tough and resilient. And for what I need it for, just walking away from camp real quick to stuff a few things into, or carrying things that won't necessarily fit in my backpack or that I need ready access to, this does the job. You can buy any haversack you want to buy and bring, but you're allowed to bring one haversack to this class, and you will use it all weekend long. Leather gloves. Any pair of leather gloves will do. These are just deerskin gloves from Tractor Supply or someplace like that. But you want something so that you're rooting around in the ground, picking things up. You are not rooting through poison ivy with bare hands. Also the thorns and the briars, as well as protecting your hands while you're doing other things around the fire, okay? I got one pair of socks on here, and I'm not gonna take it away from you if you bring a small bag that's got like a pair of socks, a pair of underwear, a spare shirt, or some type of lightweight base layer, okay? All that fits in a very small Dyneema bag in my kit, and that's what I carry all the time. Again, one lightweight base layer, one pair of underwear, one pair of socks, one spare merino wool t-shirt. Works out well. If you bring that kind of stuff, I'm not gonna take it away from you. We just don't want you to have excess stuff in this course because you don't need it, trust me, all right? And then hygiene items. Hygiene items for us is really a toothbrush, toilet paper if you have to have it, right? And then any medications that are prescribed to you. Now, if you bring bug juice or something like that, I don't care. You bring sunscreen with you, I don't care. In this class, at the advanced level, you can't have any of that stuff, all right? We do everything off the landscape in the advanced course just about, with very little accoutrements at all right? But as we're progressing and you're learning, I don't want to make you too uncomfortable at one point in time because there's a lot to learn in this class. This class really has more learning in it and more skill-based learning that is difficult to grasp and hang on to than any other class we have, because there's a lot of things jammed into this class at the intro type level that feed off into other classes on the tree of learning here at the Pathfinder School. So there's a lot to learn, and I want you to be comfortable as you can while you're doing it, so I don't take too many things away from you that you may want for comfort, like, again, sunscreen, bug protection, toothpaste and a toothbrush, toilet paper, medication that's prescribed to you. Those are the things I say when I say hygiene items, okay? That doesn't mean I want you to bring, the whole dresser drawer with you of stuff. You don't need all that. Just bring the basics, all right? So that's really your list, okay? And you can see that all of that's laying on this table. And what we're gonna do now is we're going to take this 30-liter dry bag, and we're gonna put our kit in between this and our haversack is where our kit's gonna go, all right? All right, so with that said, on the list, and I didn't talk about this, is 2 days worth of food. Just add water, meals, or snacks. And I've got probably 3 days worth of food in this. This is the kit that I always carry, and it's got a stove in it in case I can't start a fire. You're not gonna need something this big or this much. However, it can go in the bottom of this 30-liter dry bag, easy enough, or at the top, depending on how often you get hungry, depends on how you wanna pack it. I'm putting it in there just to show you this 30-liter bag will hold a ton, okay? The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this plastic bag and I'm gonna drop it in there right on the side, right in front of that food bag. At the bottom, okay? Then I'm gonna take spare clothes and drop them in, and they probably should have went in before that food bag, to be flat honest with you, okay? But that's okay. We're not being overly specific here. The next thing I'm gonna put in here is the Swagman Roll, and I'm just gonna stuff it, okay? I'm not a big believer in folding stuff up, because if you stuff it, it's gonna take up nooks and crannies that are empty in the pack so that you can fill it out. And it just seems to work out much better that way for me. And it doesn't put creases in things like tarps that you don't want, okay? You can see through this dry bag, we're about right here. So we got over half this dry bag left, and most of the stuff we got now to put in there is fairly small. Our tarp's gonna go in next. Again, just stuffed, not folded, okay? Jam that stuff all down in there tight. Again, now we've pushed it down, you can see where my fingers are at here, because this bag's kind of see-through. We're still only right here in the bag. We don't have that much more that's gonna go in this bag. We'll go ahead and put our webbing in there. We'll put our tent stakes in there. I'm gonna shove the tent stakes down the side. So I'm just gonna go right down the side with those things. 1, 2, 3, and I'm putting them in there in this fashion, okay? Okay. There's our 6/10 stakes. Now, looking at this other stuff, we think about how much we want in our haversack. We know this isn't gonna fit, all right? Here's our haversack. Things I may want to get to right away, right? Headlight, compass protractor, at least one utility line, maybe my gloves, and most likely, I'll scoot all that stuff over, my water bottle. Put my water bottle in there, and that's pretty much gonna fill up my haversack, other than my Milbank bag. And I'll probably put that in there too, just for an extra bag for collecting or storing tinder in, but also so that I can use that on my water almost immediately if I need to. Now I could also put my utility cord or my poncho in there as well if I wanted to, but there's plenty of room left in this dry bag to put that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the shemagh in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the saw in here, and I'm gonna stuff it down the side as well so that I can get to it very easily, although it can be worn on my belt. You see, I've got a rubber sheath that's made for the Gomboy. I could wear that on my belt, and I wouldn't have to put it anywhere in my bags. I could have that on my belt, I can have this on my belt, and I can have this in my pocket, right? And I can put that extra utility cord in my pocket. Put these two pieces of cordage in the top of this thing. Poncho at the very top, in case I want to get to it really quickly. It goes at the very top, all right? I have this roll of duct tape right here. If I wanted to put it on the outside, I could do that pretty easily. Just tie it on here with paracord. Or if I want to stuff it in my haversack, I could do that really easily. I'm just going to drop it right here in the top. Close this down. You can see there is a ton of room still left over in this. Oop. We forgot something. T-shirt. We'll put it up toward the top too. Squeeze this down and close it. Again, there's a ton of room left in that dry bag, okay? So everything, my kit is right here. This is gonna have to be strapped to the outside somehow. I could use any piece of paracord or bank line for that, strap that on there really, really easily. And it would take nothing to do that, okay? It's a very simple thing to do. I've got paracord on here already. That's got this thing tied together. I can just use that to attach to this bag and be good. You can see it's got some lashing points on it here. I could always just lash it right to here on the bag, and it would be on the outside on the back. So when I'm carrying it, it's like this, okay? That would be very, very easy to do with those lashing points. That's one of the things I like about this Pelican style bag. And it does have an outer pocket here where you could also put some items that you need to get to on the fly, or possibly your cell phone or something like that, okay? So that's the one thing I like about that Pelican bag. But you can see that this kit is not gonna take up much space when it's all said and done. And this is what you're gonna be carrying all weekend long. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you joining me for this video today, and happy Easter to everyone on the kit that we carry here at the Pathfinder School for the intermediate level course and the subject matter within that course. I wanted to get that out there to you guys. I did a basic video not long ago that's on my site as well, and I wanted to make sure that sooner or later I have videos for each and every course. However, remember that our courses are always subject to continuous improvement so that we give you better service, better one-on-one training, and better skills. So everything may not be exact from this video a year from now. But for this year in 2025, this kit list is exactly what you need. Hope to see you here at Pathfinder School in 2025 for training. Again, this intermediate course is already sold out. However, we do have another one later in the year that you can sign up for. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for family, for business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.